Take a look at what young people are doing, because a lot of revolutions, a lot of changes, a lot of thought shifts within cultures have started on the college campus. That's the age. Those are the revolutionaries, really.
Yeah.
One thing that I've found that's interesting that's happening right now, Harvard University just lost a big donor because of students who were doing that same thing, gathering and showing their support of
a lot of universities, not only Harvard.
So,
A lot of
universities
are
have
having
lost.
that issue
So-
right now. They're
so
trying to force
that-
students to, like, they don't want students to be protesting on their grounds, and which is very hard to stop them.
Right, because I'm not sure exactly how you would do that, and some of the letters that I have seen that have been written to university presidents goes along the lines of, there are gatherings happening for both sides, but one is being told that you shouldn't gather and the other one isn't.
So which one is being told not to gather?
The pro-Palestinian,
yes.
gatherings.
Or I will withdraw my donations. And by the way, this building is named after my family. We've been giving money to you guys for the last 40 years or 50 years or 60 years. We're going to stop funding you.
Right.
And I think this is what's actually making now a lot of people becoming aware of this in support of Palestine. And the next day, the whole of Paris was upside down with people pro-Palestinian Palestinian protesters. In Germany, we're seeing pro-Palestinian protesters being arrested, while pro-Israeli protesters are not being arrested. So this is actually bringing more eyes into how the world is looking at it. And there's that question of why are you using force and might and money to protect somebody who's actually doing atrocities to those who are not doing it. And as you've said, unfortunately or fortunately, here is where we have an election. And as much as I see that it's going to be a turnoff to a lot of a turnoff to a lot of the Muslim electors, young people right now are seeing the country ruining education. The country doesn't have enough money for healthcare. The healthcare system is going down. They're feeling like everything, inflation is going high, but we have enough money to support wars that don't help us in any way. And unfortunately, the party that is in power is the one which is being seen as the one that's writing those checks. And Democrats will have it hard.
I think to also provide context to the discussion, I think it's, for me, what happened with whatever was going on, I just decided to because you would hear about the Golan Heights, 1948. Mm-hmm. Then, I started looking and searching for documentaries on YouTube. And I just happened to get one that I just shared, and something called Al-Nakba.
Al-Nakba, yeah.
I was like, what is this?
That was the original eviction of Palestinian people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a history as to how where this conflict up to where it is right now is
documented on video,
and not documented on video, and there's paperwork, there's paper trail, and the participation of the British and what they did to facilitate the formation of the current Israel, how Palestinians or the persons who had found there before, who had been there before, what was done to get rid of them, to a point where a certain wing of a certain army that was funded by the British went out and they did bombings and they did whatever they did, funded by the British. So it's important, I think, for people to like Mika was saying, like really, really understand history, get to know the history behind the conflict. Even before we even get to Shimon Peres and PLO.
Yeah.
I know, and I've mentioned this before. At one point in time, Hamas and Israel worked together to undermine the PLO.
Yes, actually,
and that is documented.
Hamas,
it's fact.
actually said that Hamas was a creation of Israel. Created Hamas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is, we're not. It's not at Isijui, QAnon. No, it's there.
But it's history.
It's history.
It's these things happen. You create these guys, and they're the ones who turn around and flip on you.
And the good thing, I think, Ali, I think we had been discussing about this of Numea tent, and we're like, there's an awakening that's going on. It's not just like I think Kenyan was saying. It's not just that's the regular Kool-Aid that we've been being fed.
No,
people are seeing. People are, and I wish my niece was here, but she had to go. She had to bounce. And there's also that movement in University of Maryland. Mm-hmm. Students are saying, we do not, we want you guys, I'm paraphrasing, we want you guys to understand that in this conflict, the Palestinians too are being thulumiwad. And you have to recognize that fact. And we're not liking the way that the way you guys are just standing with one side and not standing. And I'm like, she's 19, and she is. I wish she would have said something, but she had to bounce. But it's like you said, it's permeating. It is an upswell.
Because you see that we are living in an interesting time where the gatekeepers of information are gone. All these people who are blocking these documents and making sure that nobody knows, nobody can have access to them, or it will be very difficult to come across them. Those things, the World Wide Web, and all these new platforms you have, or all these alternative platforms you have, like Al Jazeera, TRT, all these are gone. And now people are saying there's a famous historian, in Mombasa called Stambuli. He says, zile siku za kusema ati hichi kilitokea kwa sababu niliambiwa na babu yangu zimeenda. Siku hizi ni unatoa ithibati. Show the evidence. Show us the evidence, and the evidence, they are everywhere. It's all hidden everywhere in plain sight. We are talking documents. We are talking videos. We are talking people, like who actually lived that time. Right here in America, you have people, I saw in some mosque in Texas, where people who lived through that first Nakba, people who are like 10 years old at the time, we have those people who are alive today in Texas. Annette.
I think it's there's something very interesting about where we are located geographically if you're here in the United States, because it's very easy to be removed from the things that are going on abroad because you don't physically see it happening, and that's what's different now, right? So we are physically seeing the videos. Everything that you're saying, I agree, there is an access of information. But the average American has not experienced wartime. The average American who is not in military has not been into a war-torn country or has not experienced what it's like to be in an area that experiences bombs frequently, things of that nature. So the only way you can get a concept of what the word war really means, which is a word that is used very liberally in this country, even when we're talking about something that is an inanimate object, the word war is used so much, but now we're talking about it and we have images and an understanding of what it means. Mm-hmm. But it's not just the reporting and the journalists. It's the fact that there are individuals who are streaming on YouTube, on Facebook, mm-hmm. while the attacks are happening in their homes, in their apartments, in their neighborhoods, or showing the destruction that happened the night before. And that's something that is very shocking, especially if you've never experienced being in a war. In war. So there are individuals who are here in the United States who maybe have come from a place where they experience that. Their concept of when someone says bombs are going off is going to be very different than the person who's only spent their time here in the continental U.S. and has never experienced that. So I do know that there's a reckoning, an awakening that's going on, and there's empathy. in a way that
Absolutely.
I haven't seen
Yeah.
in a while with this. And that to me is very encouraging, because it's very difficult prior to this to have a conversation with someone and make them care if they don't see the current ramifications, right? So if we take this to our current politics and what's going on now, if there is an upset about how money is being spent, one, you need to understand the history of the treaties and the alliances that exist. And two, you also need to understand who is currently in power and can make votes and decide where money goes. And if you do not know who those people are and how they are voting, then you also have a responsibility, if you are an individual who can vote, to contact that person, to vote the next elections, to say that this is going to be a key concern for you when the election comes up. And I know that politicians are starting to see that and realize that, because remember when this first happened, there was a lot of pro-Israel conversation
Correct.
that completely lacked out the Palestinian side.
Yes.
As the days progressed, and not just politicians, even people who are social media personalities who have big followings have made these statements and then had to take some steps back later on and say, hey, we understand that lives are being lost everywhere, right? So this is not just crying for one side. We need to understand that people are dying in Gaza right now, and the majority of people who are losing their lives are in Gaza. And that's just numbers.